And a very good evening, everybody. Welcome into your box seat, brought to you in association with Sweet Lou, of course, standing at Woodlands. Good week for them. And, of course, Sweet Lou himself got a $100,000 lot out of the sales out of Auckland. Speaking of sales, a lot to talk about in the first part of the show, and we're heading north, of course, to Michael Guerin. Catch up with him about what's been unfolding in the last 3 days, Michael, because it is such an important part of the year, both for those, the vendors who breed the horses, and the purchasers who are looking to find their next champion. A very good evening to you.
Yeah, hi mate, and big hi to everybody around the country watching the show, as sales have been on everybody's mind. And if you bought a horse or sold a horse, well, congratulations. Some, Greg, will be happy, some of course were unhappy. Sales are much like race days. There are winners and losers to be discussed. We will talk about both in the next 57 odd minutes.
Of course, a lot to get through today, not only the sales side of things, but we need to review plenty of racing and look forward to what is going to be a magnificent meeting at Addington Raceway on Friday night, and then we head to Menangle on Saturday to see if horses trying to qualify for the Miracle Mile the following week. Let's go back to the sales though, and Karaka, which were held, of course, on Monday. Here are the figures courtesy of PGG Wrightson. The average there down, Michael, 33, just over that. Top price lot, very much sought after this horse, $230,000. More about him shortly. The clearance rate there on the day when the hammer fell was about 73, so there was a bit of shuffling of the deck there in terms of a few later deals done. But yeah, it was hard going there at Karaka, wasn't it, my friend?
It is. It's a boutique type sale, Greg, but it has expanded. It's gone from what was only a couple of years ago, about 110, 120 lots out to around 175. And for that reason, the average shrinking is not a total disaster because you are adding more horses to it still. Greg, quite simply, before we get to the top lot, who was a magnificent, strong-looking colt, the problem at Karaka in particular, and it's a very different sale to Christchurch, is we need 50 more buyers on the grounds. We just don't have new buyers there. There were very, very few buyers under 40. Most of the people buying horses who we'll talk about in the next 10 minutes are people whose names you hear on this show last year and the year before. That middle market of buyer, Greg, who forces a 20 horse to a 25 or a 40 to a 50 doesn't exist. Now, when you talk to the vendors, those who don't get what they want, Greg, are naturally upset. And they lay that blame at the foot of the big people, Harness Racing New Zealand or the ATC. Well, you can't possibly blame the ATC. The stakes have all but doubled in 5 years, and there still hasn't been any new owners coming to the game, Gregory. So we need to say, and HRNZ have some new owner initiatives coming on board with Jess taking over that position for them. But it comes back to, what do trainers do about this? How do we get more people into the game, Greg? Because there were no, or close to no, new people buying horses at Karaka. And no matter how you sugarcoat the figures, that was the story of the day.
Yeah, no question about that at all, as was the horse we just looked at, lot 157, of course, Linda Lovegrace's brother, beautiful son of Bettor's Delight, who dominated the sale, as you would have expected him to. He was really strongly sought after, wasn't he, Michael? Gene Feast won that battle in the end. We'll hear from here very shortly about that, but not often, Michael, does John Street have a decent go at one and come second.
Yeah, and John and Gene on different sides of the arena went at it from about 100,000 onwards. It was about 100,000 they were locked in at $10,000 bids. And it happened very, very quickly. Those probably last 12 bids came in inside a minute. So there wasn't much thinking about it. They had both made their mind up. It was a colt they wanted. Strong colt, strong-bodied colt, no weakness in him. A very modern family. He has only 3 siblings, and they're all siblings who have won races. So, Greg, you can see what they were thinking. He was the clear standout on the day, and it was obvious a long way from the end of the sale he was going to be the sales topper. Gene Feast, who we'll hear from shortly, as we know, basically, like John, tends to single in on the horse or two they want. And that was pretty much the story of the sales at Karaka. Christchurch, different today, Greg. But the big 8 buyers, the people who would pay 100,000, and I counted 8 there on the day, they all wanted the same 10 horses. And that would seem to be the recurring problem with harness racing sales. They almost always are Bettor's Delight colts. There's the occasional filly and a Sweet Lou on Monday. And when they all want the same horses, Greg, it means that the market for the horses who are 15th to 50th sort in that market has no real competition, or not 2 or 3 bidders on a horse, because those $100,000 plus buyers, the VIP buyers, are all aiming for those top 15 horses.
Yeah, you're not wrong. 78,000 there, the Bettor's Delight out of Temi Paracullen for the Kennards. Next one we're having a look at, and it was lot 26. Of course, there's Sarah Smith, and this one out of Timeless Perfection, a filly, was lot 44, 90,000 outlaid by the Mark Jones stable. And yeah, she was delightful. Have a look at her, beautiful head and lovely moving filly. So yep, she was certainly one that a few were keen on. Coin a phrase from Steve Davis: buy the one you want, not the one that's left, Michael. So that's basically what happened there. Gene Feast, of course, the half to bare knuckle was lot 101, 90,000 for him, and we'll get a chance to have a look at him out of Coco Vicola. And the last one we'll have a look at is lot 111, who was a filly out of Gold Elite, the Gold Ace family, which Crandell Getty managed to secure. So there's just some of the high price lots out of Karaka, but yeah, it was a challenge, as you say, Michael, because most were after the same.
Yeah, Greg, Sarah Smith made her way up from the South Island and did a really good job. I think she had a couple of 85s and a 90, or 2 90s and an 85. So she justified the decision to head to Auckland with those type of horses. What did encourage me, Greg, and we'll talk more about this another day because some people don't agree with me on this, so I'm absolutely sure I'm right, is we saw a couple of young trainers and even drivers get there and say to horses who have been, or to vendors who had horses passed in, I'll take that horse and train it for you on a 50-50 deal. Please tell me that the 40 horses passed in, Greg, aren't an opportunity for young people to do that. Jack Harrington was there hustling, trying to make some money. Matt Anderson was doing the same. Even Zach Butcher, who we spoke about last week, is going to move. He's moving to the Ray Green Lincoln Farms stable in April. He said, Greg, why wouldn't I go do a deal with a horse? Because I get a horse and work. Now, a lot of those senior staff, not junior staff, but senior staff working for major trainers, as part of their contract, get a horse and work, Greg. If there's 40 or 50 horses in New Zealand tonight who don't have established homes, and you have the opportunity to train a horse for free, why would you not be ringing those 20 or 30 or 40 vendors, Greg? I suggested this last year. I'm glad to see some of the young guys and girls attempting it. And Greg, anybody who tries to poo-poo a young person for putting their ability on the line by doing that has no place in harness racing as far as I'm concerned.
No, couldn't agree with you more, Michael, and let's hope that they are finding their way to the young people who have an opportunity there with the ones that were passed in. What about the Christchurch sale? Now, it was a completely different setup to other years. Of course, the Trotters sale, but prior to that, all of the colts and fillies for the next day were paraded. But here's a look at the Trotters sale. Now, this was an absolute highlight, Michael. I haven't felt an atmosphere like it at a Christchurch sale before, because so many more people were there, or a lot more people were there to watch the parade and participate therefore in the Trotters sale. It was incredible, actually. The first lot came through and there was a real buzz. The clearance was very high, 81% there. The top price lot out of One Over Kenny, of course, $160,000. Staying, of course, in New Zealand, being trained by Phil Williamson, which I think is a wonderful thing. And yeah, the day two, as we'll hear from Bruce Barler shortly, was very, very positive.
I think the trotting sale works, Gregory. It's a very good start. Obviously, you would like to see the figures go up, but look, it gives that niche market its own day in the sun. The leading lot, the 160, what a beautiful horse he was. typical French blood coming from Love You, big, strong, strapping-looking horse, well presented. The vendors there did a great job of the photographs of the horse, look fantastic online. So I think the trotter sales are gimme, Greg, that it continues going forward, and maybe we could even get confidence from people to say, look, you know, let's take our best lots there, because some of our best trotting lots tend to be retained, Gregory, because they stuck in those, those older families. So that's a good thing. You were there today. What was the general feeling like? Because it looked like that 30 to 50, 60 market was a lot more consistent than it was at Karaka.
Yeah, only a couple over, you know, the $100,000 mark, but gee, there was a strong middle market there, and that has been reflected by the figures that Bruce will tell us about very, very shortly. And look, the number of people trying to find themselves a horse towards the end of the day was quite interesting to watch. So yeah, it was a decent sort of a battle there for a few of them today. One that hasn't been battling at the sales nor on the racetrack in recent times has been Jean Feast. So after her picking up the top lot at Karaka, I had a chat to her earlier today. Jean, a little bit of deja vu, grabbing the top lot out of the Auckland sale. Tell me about the son of Bettor's Delight and Linda Grace, of course, a brother to Linda Lovegrace. So what did you like the most about him?
First of all, the pedigree, obviously, yep. And then I seen him about a month or so before the sales. I went out to the farm and he was lovely then. And by sale day, he was even nicer, so I was wrapped, you know, and then it was time to bid. Yeah,
get into a bit of a war with John Street. Not too many come out the other side of that one, but no, you managed to.
So I actually didn't know who was bidding.
Yep.
But I thought, oh well, same as last year, I'll just have to keep going.
Well, it's worked well with Jesse Duke, as we know, one from one, and this guy appears to have everything going for him.
He does, yeah. So it's up to him now.
Wasn't the only colt you bought up there at Auckland, though. You got 101 as well, and this is behalf to Beer Knuckles. There's a bit of breeding there.
That's right, there is, yeah. He was a nice colt too. Different family, of course, but there's a bit of background there in that family, so I liked him on the day, so yeah. You
said to us a couple of weeks ago you wanted to buy 4, possibly 5, but 4 it is. Bettor's Delight out of Christian Dreamer, lot 317, and of course that's not surprising because it's sister to Chase the Dream.
That's right, yeah. Each year I've sort of had a look, but this year she sort of took my fancy. She's a late foal, a little bit probably underdeveloped, but she's a late foal. But she looked really nice yesterday, so today I thought, yep, I'll go for her.
Yeah. And gone with the filly. Of course, your fillies lately in the last couple of seasons have been outstanding, so what's wrong with that?
That's right,
continue on that vein.
Yeah.
And closely related, the Bettor's Delight out of Tricky Woman.
That's right, yeah.
That was the last of your group.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
All right, pleased with what you've purchased?
I am very pleased.
We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to catch up with Jean, and you know, when you consider the family she's buying into, well, often you find, Michael, when they go to the sales, people tend to go back to what's been successful for that, and whilst it isn't exactly always the case, we certainly heard that with Jean there, with one of hers anyway.
Yeah, and those horses, you would suggest all of them were going to Mark Purdon and Natalie Rasmussen, Greg, but one of the big, not blurted stories of sales week, but I think it's starting to be understood in the marketplace by those on the inside of the industry, is that Mark and Natalie will be taking home a significantly lesser number this year than last year. I think last year they might have ended up with probably 40 two-year-olds on the books. That's a figure I think's about right.
Yeah, it was 39 or 40.
Okay. Yep. This year, I think that number's going to be capped at the moment around that 15 to 20. Now, that's got to be good for the industry, because it means that the horses who have been purchased have to go to other people and create a more competitive juvenile racing scene. I'm not saying they won't be our leading juvenile trainers next season, because they're probably getting most of the top lots, or a lot of them. But I still think, Gregory, a lot of people watching the show who get sick of seeing them win all the time will probably be feeling comfortable to hear that.
Yep, I totally agree with you, Michael. Let's get to Bruce Barlass and hear what his summation of the sales has been.
I think what we saw at Auckland was a first sale, and sometimes that can pay off, sometimes it can't. I think what's happened is that a lot of the trainers have said to us they saw a bit more value in the south, and because Auckland was first, they just didn't really get into gear. And I think that Auckland probably suffered a little bit by that. You know, if you saw what their clearance rate off the hammer was 73. It'll end up at about 76%, which is what we did last year off the, at the end. So that's okay, but yeah, there wasn't the spend at the top end. I think we had 4 over 100,000. Last year we had, I think, 7 or 8. So that, I think, to me has been the difference, that they just held off a bit.
Okay, so it was down around about 10%. Top lot being 230,000. Good bidding war between a couple of great supporters of the sales, Jean Feast and John Street.
Oh, well, both, and John got another couple, but Jean, she paid the 220 last year and the 230 this year, and what a unassuming, quiet, great judge of horses she is, when you look what she's picked up. But well done to her.
A couple of other really good bidders, colts, the one out of a daughter of Corby, which went for about 140, and the one out of Beach Parade, of course, a brother to Party on. $100,000 for a Sweet Lou. That's a really positive result.
It was for him, and I thought as a sire, like for where he sits, a first crop, I thought they sold well, and hey, to get 100 for one, that's made it. It was a good result for Woodlands with some of their other sales. They put a large number through and did a good job of them. So that's one of the strengths of the sale up there. Yeah.
All right, that wraps up Auckland. We move to Christchurch, and this masterstroke, in my opinion, and several people, good judges' opinions as well, opening with the trotting sale. Gee, that was received well.
Oh, wasn't it? And look, and when I said, about the difference in the two sales, the atmosphere yesterday, and I know it was a pretty hot old day here, but like the format was changed more than just the trotters. It was that parade day. We've never had that parade all day like they have at Auckland, and then the overnight of the colts, and that's what, or the overnight of the paces, and that's what these new temporary stables are all about. So that whole format has changed and created a lovely selling day today. But the trotters, look, it was great. But whatever we do with the trotters this year will be a lot stronger next year, because the sires coming on stream and the numbers being bred. Look, it's something that's really enjoyable for the industry, because so many more people that aren't involved with paces are involved with trotters. And look, I think it's going to grow. Like Duncan McPherson, one of the biggest fans of trotting.
Aldebaran Park man.
Yes, in Australia. He left here on an absolute high because he runs the trotting sale in Australia. And there's so much happening around the trotter with our races and the stakes, the breeding, and now that race, that sales here. Very pleased.
160,000, of course, for the Love You out of 1 over Kenny. 60,000 for an Angus Hall too, so a really good sale, and like you say, the future of that looks pretty positive. On to our pacing sale, and you've had an opportunity to look at the results thus far. I know the supplementary's still ongoing. How have things panned out?
Well, I wouldn't say it carried on straight from that trotter's sale, but by the end there was a wee bit of a lull early on, but look, we're looking at about an 80% clearance rate off the bat.
Just back to that trotters, it was about 80 for them
it
too?
Was,
yes.
It was over that. It's finished up, I think we're at 82% clearance now, but we're 80% off the bat for these paces. The average for them was 26.5, that's the trotters.
Yep.
Now when you think the wholesale averaged 27 last year, for the trotters to come nearly up to that was very good. But what's happened today is that we've actually lifted again. I'd say it's hard to tell. There's been a couple of good lots gone through just recently, but I'd say we're looking at somewhere around a 12% lift in average here. That's a wee bit watered down by the fact that the trotters weren't in it, but 12% overall for the pacing horses is tremendous. Combined with the 82% clearance, so yeah, very, very pleased.
All right, top lot, the Chicago Bulls brother, which is not surprising. He was a beautiful colt.
Yeah, well, out of Winton, from the prices, and I think there was another one of the $100,000 ones came out of Winton.
Bodine Bad Babe
yes,
one, yes.
So for the Deep South, the boys down there will be very pleased, and from the Waitaki River area with the trotters. So the South has really stood up here at this sale, so that's great too. Yes.
All right, we'll leave it sit for a few days, probably get a wrap up for next week's show, but all in all, I think there's plenty of positives to come out of it.
Oh, very much so. Look, hey, it was a big gamble. even my company said it was a big gamble to take on these stables, and we had to push hard to get it. And I know there was a lot of people that maybe were waiting for everything to fall over. But, you know, as you say, the trotters was great. The atmosphere was great. Look, we can only really thank the people in the industry that support us, vendors, purchasers, you know, the preparers. Yeah, very, very pleased.
And here's a look at the six-figure lots, Michael. I wanted to focus on the Bettor's Delight Chicago Blues one down the bottom there. I know you were quite keen on this guy, and obviously with what Chicago Bulls been able to achieve, particularly in WA, ran second in the Inter-Dominion final, as we know. 190,000 was a fair outlay for him, but he certainly was a little bit bigger than his brother, and yeah, I think he'll deliver the way he looked anyway.
Yeah, well, Greg, I thought he was the best colt I saw all week. I bid up on him, but obviously not enough. And I think Emilio Rosati has purchased him, and not sure where he's going, Greg. I hope he stays in New Zealand. Indications and rumours are that he will be. He was a beautiful horse, bigger than his brother already, different colour to his brother. One thing, Katrina Price, by the way, did a fantastic job with that horse. One thing they did with the southern bred horses, Greg, the horses filmed out of the Deep South, was they did something I've never seen before, and they filmed them trotting or running around their own paddocks. Magnificent. It gives people an opportunity to see how the horses look, Greg, see how their gait appears to look, see them in the natural environment. It's something, if I was a vendor heading forward, I would do for every horse I was trying to sell. When you looked at the videos from the Deep South, and that was the one I looked at about 4 or 5 times, it was stark how more impressive they look when you see that. So well done to them in the Deep South, well done to the Prices on selling a $190,000 horse, and let's hope he finds himself a nice home, Gregory, because he looks to me almost a no-miss horse. Touch wood.
Southern bred, southern reared, they've certainly done a great job branding themselves, and yeah, nice piece of work there, like you say, in their natural environment. We're about to take a break here on Your Box Seat. When we return, we've got plenty of stuff to review and a lot to preview. Really busy time ahead in harness racing in the next few days. Yeah, your box seat continues. Hope your week's going well with Sweet Lou, of course, who stands at Woodlands. The Group 1 of the weekend, of course, was the very much sought-after Chariots of Fire. And we had Kiwi representation in it, of course, Tim Butt having Let It Ride in it, and Mark Jones with Whitaker. Let It Ride, centre of the track. Jillaby Kung Fu, though, Michael, from Barrier Rise, found the front and was just simply too strong. Whitaker found the line good too.
It's Jillaby Kung Fu fighting back. Jillaby Kung Fu, too good. Jillaby Kung Fu wins the Chariots, beats Let It Ride. Third Atomic Red.
A rare Victorian victory in New South Wales' biggest 4-year-old race, and he has been invited to the Miracle Mile, where he will head next. That is Saturday week. Jillaby Kung Fu 148.8. Pretty hard to argue with the fact he deserves a Miracle Mile invite, Greg. Trained by Marg Lee, driven by Jason Lee. Beautiful drive, as was Anthony Butts on Let It Ride. He just simply wasn't good enough, Greg, but spoke to Tim Butt at the sales on Monday, and as he said, I've gone 149 and been beaten. You can't go much quicker. So, look, it was a race which was an opportunity for somebody to get their Group 1 with no Vincent and no Ultimate Machete, and that was the case. He'll be in the Miracle Mile, so that leaves 7 spots still dangling for Saturday week.
Michael, Atomic Red's run for third. There was nothing wrong with that either. We've talked about him on the show before. He's very, very talented. Would they extend an invite to, say, a Let It Ride if those didn't really front up in our 2 races that we'll look at shortly, the $100,000 features on Saturday night, or would that seem a pretty unusual thing to do?
Atomic Red, by the way, had a flat tyre, so 149 and change with a flat tyre is pretty quick. I don't think so, Greg, for the reason that the first 2 home and the preludes we're going to show you are guaranteed a spot. So there's Jillaby Kung Fu plus them, so that's 5. And then you think of the horses who are in the mix for the invites. Obviously, Lazarus has drawn the pole in his race, so if Tiger Tar is going to be first or second, then you're talking about San Carlo and horses like that. In the other heat, you've got Soho Tribeca, who clearly they'll want there and probably should run 1-2. Then Heaven Rocks and Lenny the Shark. Well, he's defending champion, so if he finishes 5th, he'll still get in because they love having the defending champion there. So there's 3 horses in each of those heats they want in. It gets to be an awfully long stretch to invite Let It Ride when he's going to go around $70, Greg. I don't see him being there. Unless something really odd happens in the heats, because I think there's enough horses there. They want even Franco Nelson or Anything for Love. Those sort of horses are horses they would probably want there and see as more valuable to their betting market. So I would be surprised if Let It Ride got an invite.
The other group race on the night, the Sibelius Stakes, we highlighted it on this program last week, and well, we had plenty of Kiwi interest in it. Off the back of this, we'll talk to successful trainer Brad Mowbray because his mare, Delishka, delivered.
Gold has joined party on. Here's Delishka bringing fresh legs. A Piccadilly Princess is still coming, but Delishka lets down with a devastating turn of foot, grabs the lead and goes home to win it. Delishka first, a Piccadilly Princess second, third Miss Riviera Bella Good Run, and fourth was either, I think, I'm a Mystery Girl or I See Diamonds in a Wall.
Brad, when you hatched the plan to go to Australia, even beyond your wildest dreams, wouldn't have happened what happened on Saturday night.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We didn't think we'd have the luck we had. We were hoping for 2 or 3 placings on our trip, but you know, 3 starts and 2 wins, we were really over the moon.
Long way from the Roxburgh Cup to a Group 3 Sibelius Stakes, of course, in 151, but gee, she's come a long way in such a short time, this mare.
Absolutely. She's just got a lot stronger, you know, over a break during the winter, and she's come back and done a super job the spring and the summer. So, you know, her mother done the same sort of thing. She just got better and better, and I expect that she's probably got a little bit of improvement left in her. All
right, Group 1 still to come, the Ladyship. You haven't tempted fate thus far by heading across the Tasman. Don't think that'll be happening this time either.
No, I've got no intention. I haven't even looked up the airfares. But no, Mel, my wife's over there looking after the horse, same with Blake Fitzpatrick, and they're doing a super job as the races show, so I've got no reason to stick my oar in.
So the Ladyship, that's it, and then you bring her back, and what's the long-term plan with her?
Like the Jills are a pretty realistic possibility. She won enough money before she went, so she should be close to being already in. We might try an Easter Cup or something like that. We'll just see how the fields sort of pan out between now and the Jewels.
Well, congratulations on the way things have been going. Good luck barrier draw-wise and race-wise in the Ladyship.
No worries. Thanks very much, Greg.
Yeah, nice to catch up with Brad at the sales today. He was pretty active too, on the phone most of the morning and afternoon every time I went to go and grab him. But well done to him, Michael. A young guy doing some very good things. Of course, he had pretty good education, particularly with travelling horses as well. I'm sure that's standing to him now. And it was gutsy play to take that mare across there.
It was, because she wasn't probably ranked in the top 5 in New Zealand. But again, some other horses have slightly fallen over. And the All-Stars horses are racing a bit one-paced as of yet in Sydney, probably some travel. A couple of them got a bug. I think Party On might have had a virus last week, Greg. So, look, he's there at the right time. And he's got the 151 time, which will be in those sales catalogues in 50 years' time. Because she'll be the 3rd dam of something in 50 years' time, and it'll be there. So once you've got those times, they're there for an awfully long time. She can win a Group 1 over there. He's probably bypassed his chance to win a Group 1 at Addington this weekend going, Greg, but you get that bonus of the fast times. And of course, if you win a Group 1 in Australia, your mare's worth more because her progeny are attractive to people from 2 different countries rather than one, because they don't tend to know them that well. So really positive move. Not sure to make this of the Sibelia. Amaretto and Our Golden Goddess are heading there as well. I think usually, the Ladyship Mile, usually we have a sort of a stranglehold on these races, Greg. I think this year it's 50-50 at best if the Kiwis can beat the better Australian mares, because Party On would need to turn it around pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a magnificent night there next Saturday night. Michael, Tiger Tara, he's been pretty busy, hasn't he? He rocked back there in another 150 for him. So where's he at leading into the Miracle Mile?
Well, he's got Lazarus this week, and those free-for-alls at Menangle are poor. They're just moderate races every week, and he's run a good enough time, but 150 is not going to get you betting Lazarus. He's got barrier 3. Their attitude toward Lazarus this week will be interesting. Do they sit parked outside him and just try and run first or second and they're guaranteed to start in the Miracle Mile? That would seem logical. Or with his gate speed, do they try and blast him at the start and hope that Mark Purdon's happy to sit behind them, Greg? That's the key to that race, because they've lost a lot of battles with Lazarus now, and maybe they're not too keen to have another one, but sitting parked outside him is not going to be very easy either. So, yeah, he probably holds the key to just how easily Lazarus gets things on Saturday night. But Kevin Bizzuto being Kevin Bizzuto, Greg, I would more likely favour the fact they roll the dice and try and cross Lazarus at the start. Not that it should probably affect the result too much in the end.
Some exceptional harness racing coming out on Saturday night, brought to you, of course, by PGG Wrightson and Brecon Farms. Neville Fillies Heat. Well, heat number 1 we had at Alexandra Park, and Qatari Cullen ended up being a double for the Dunbarn. In front, she's hard to run down, and she was very strong here, Michael.
Yeah, she was. Look, once you lead in these sort of races, you're going to be hard to beat. I don't think it was a super strong race, to be honest, but those Dun horses, gee, they're very good when they're in front and they get up on the bit and they keep on charging along. So not sure the winner of the Neville final is going to come out of either of these heats, Greg. This is particularly unusual because we lost both the favourites, and it's a sticky grass track heat for a Neville. There haven't been too many of those in the proud history of the series.
No, the difference, 156.3 Qatari Cullen, 204.7 here for any time. She's 2 from 4 now, and yeah, she was brave in the end. She holds on by a short margin, but Better Joy and Dizzy Miss Lizzie coming out sort of robbed the Hororata Club of what could have been an exceptional clash. Lilac Star charging home there into second after missing the start. There was nothing wrong with that. But 2 down, and RJ Dunn, who of course leads the Trainers Premiership, grabbed both of those. So 2 nice performances there. Don't forget about the Northern Oaks and Derby nominations. They close this Friday. So get to the Auckland Trotting Club to do that and get your fillies, of course, for the Oaks. Pasco's, the Jewelers, Northern Oaks very much sought after, and the Derby with Woodlands as well. We're heading to a break as we go there. Speaking of Menangle, Daryl Boko, he was in winning form, beating Our Thunder Road, burst off the gate. We hadn't seen a lot of that. It did rain quite heavily prior to this race, but Daryl was too strong.
Boko the leader, 200 to go, a length and a half on Thunder Road, and then Rompers, Monarchy, Iona, Grinner, Ward and Destroyer, but Daryl's packing plenty of power. Daryl Boko's a length in front of on Thunder Road, and Daryl Boko wins again. Daryl Boko beats on Thunder Road, Ward and Destroyer.
Mentioned how busy it is this week. Domestically, second day after Tuesday, Manawatu, of course, 10 races there, 9 minutes past 5, $25,000 fast track insurance pick 6. Blair Orange picked up 4 wins there on Tuesday, which significantly helps his premiership aspirations. Have a look at this. Addington Raceway, Friday night, 5:27 the start time. Group 1, PGG Wrightson New Zealand Standardbred Breeders' Stakes. $100,000 there, $165,000 for the 3-year-old fillies in the PGG Wrightson Yearling Sales Series final. We've got the Summer Cups for the Trotters and the Pacers, and we also have a Harness 5000 at $40,000 there too. We'll talk a lot about those races very shortly. 9 races Alexandra Park to complement that. Meeting code 5, that will be as per the norm. Awamaru, they've got a cup there worth $12,000. 12 race card that kicks off just before midday. And Winton on Sunday, $30,000 pick 6 there. 12:05 the start time for the 10 races. There's also a bonus quaddie on the last 4 races at Addington Race 1 Friday night. I think it's 10,000 injected into that. But Group 1 level, PGG Wrights and the Standardbred Breeders, always a terrific contest and very even the mares. Of course, the race won last year by the Orange Agent beating Piccadilly Princess. We'll have to scroll down to find the favourite. American Tart was really good in the prelude, $5.80 the price for her. Better Be Amazed, who is one of only a couple to have come out of that race from last year. American Tart was 5th last year and Better Be Amazed 3rd. She's $5.20. Of course, Bonnie Jones, who won the Premier Mares, is a $2.30 favourite. There's already been a move there, Michael, and I'm not surprised at this. Utmost Delight, of course, from the Stephen Reed barn. Ricky May glowing in her performance, how she went last time. He was so impressed by her. She may even come in further, although starting off the second row, it won't be easy for either her or Bonnie Jones.
Yeah, and Better Be Amazed, Greg. So those big 3 mares off the second line, whereas American Tart's off the front, she's drawn the outside of the front. But I spoke to John Dunn today and he said, look, it gives me the potential for the tactical advantage to stay in front of them. Could potentially even try and work around to the marker pegs inside 600 metres, heading down the back straight the first time and get the lead. Will that be enough to beat Bonnie Joan? Maybe not, Grego. I thought Bonnie Joan was outstanding last time. On this occasion, the leader and the trailer burned early. Bonnie Joan came and sat parked and beat them fair and square. Utmost Delight is the horse in the turquoise blue colours, back on the inside running into 3rd. It's the horse who worked the least, Greg, so it can win, but I'm not getting carried away by a horse who doesn't work early storming home. As much as it's got a great chance in the race, I think $5 is its fair whack. Greg, on what I saw there, that was a convincing performance from Bonnie Joan, and she deserves to be the favourite, even though the other mare, American Tart, has that tactical advantage possibility.
It is a cracking race each and every year when you go over some of the previous winners. Of course, the Mighty Blossom Lady won it on 3 occasions, and you only have to look back to last year where they went 3:07.4, the national record set by the Orange Agent. So you have to be a pretty good horse to be able to win this one. Even worth more money is the PGG Wrights and 3-year-old fillies final. And here's a look at the market for this. Dizzy Miss Lizzie would appear to have the advantage, Michael, having come up with barrier 3. We'll have a look at that Sire Stakes final from New Year's Eve where Almac had the better of her. But Dizzy Miss Lizzie does have barrier 3 this week. Better Joy at $2.60 wide on the front row. Tactics are going to have a big part to play in this, the 3 big ones having very variable luck there with the barriers.
And this race over the years, Gregory, 1950 metres, that's the key factor. The leaders and the trailers have a huge record in this race. Almac might be, and it's only a might, be the best filly in this crop, but if she is, it's not by a lot over Better Joy and Dizzy Miss Lizzie, who she's running down here. That's Almac to the inside, Dizzy in the middle of the track, and Better's Joy in 4th spot at the moment. I don't think there's a lot between them, Greg, and for that reason I can't back Almac to beat Dizzy Miss Lizzie because she should have 5 lengths on her once they settle. Greg, I think it's very much a crop which has a lot of questions still to be answered, but Dizzy Miss Lizzie is in the best position to answer one of those questions this week.
Yeah, I think so. And Nigel McGrath, of course, had a very active few days sales-wise. What about the Summer Cups? They've only been going about 7 or 8 years, but gee, we've had some really good horses take them out. Here is the first of them, the Pacers. AG's White Sox a $2.30 favourite, but Pat's Delight, he's very, very talented, as we know. Went round in the Sire Stakes final, and his last start 3rd was also a good one. He's been in a trial, which was won by Almac only a few days ago, a week or so ago. Tiger Thompson, he's been a big mover for Brad Mowbray. He won at Omakau, of course, the Cup down there. He's well in at $3.70. Then we see the return of Buster Brady. It couldn't have been more impressive at the trials, though he didn't beat a lot. He's a $12 hope, and Maverick, who won the Invercargill Cup, of course, at his last start.
AG's White Sox, I thought Gregory just picked himself here. Comes out of an Auckland Cup. Lead-up form to that race was superb. Had no luck in the Auckland Cup. I was going to go from Bet of the Week, but you got him first, so he's all yours. I reckon he'll probably win. I think those other horses you mentioned are good horses, but I'm not sure they would have gone any better than AG's White Sox did at the Auckland Cup, Greg. I wouldn't be surprised if he started odds on. I wouldn't be surprised if the 230 disappears, because I know you'll be picking him on the night, and I think all the action will be heading toward him. Yeah, I think he'll win if he produces his best.
He's got gate speed, and I know Ricky's got a lot of confidence in him, so I'm with you. I think he will find the top, and whether he stays there or hands, I don't think it'll matter too much, because Tiger Thompson, as we know, can get off the gate very, very quickly. What about the Trotters Cup? And this one sees a hot favourite, and not surprisingly, Harriet of Mott. I spoke to co-trainer Craig Edmonds at the sales today. I said, how is she? He said, can't fault her, did a blood, absolutely perfect. It's hard work from barrier 9 over the 1950, but she's lined up against all of these before. Interesting return to the track, Ronald J, and beaten them, by the way. And everybody knows who's always very competitive in these types of races, sure to give Harriet of Mott plenty to think about, but she's got the runs on the board, Michael.
I think the interesting thing will be how forward Ronald J is, because Harriet of Mott, I think, could probably move and sit parked and beat most of these, Greg. I'm not sure she could just easily beat Ronald J in that situation, even though she's better performed than him. The tricky thing is, Greg, is if you don't move and sit parked, with the trotters over 1950, they don't tend to have the same speed as the paces, but don't come back to you. They just keep rolling along. It can be quite a tricky race. So I'm not sure I want to take $1.75, even though I think she's clearly the best performed horse in the race. $1.75 is too skinny for mine. I'll be giving Paul Nairn a ring. I know you'll be speaking to him on the night about Ronald J, whether it's on camera or not. How forward and how happy he is with him, I think, is the key factor of that race.
Yeah, he's won the race, of course, with Stig. I won't forget that performance in a long time. He pulled out to the middle of the track, David Button, launched about 4 wide, so it could be a good race, and I'm looking forward to seeing it on Friday night. Saturday night, Menangle, of course. We leave Addington there, but there'll be plenty of preview for you, both with Craig Thompson and his Whale Watch section, and with us on Friday night at Addington Raceway. So there you go, Trackside 1 covers races 3 through 9. I'll actually be in studio, and Michael will be on track, and we'll be able to cross to him and get the latest from Menangle. Group 1 Allied Express Transport Sprint features Heaven Rocks amongst others. We'll have a look at that in a moment. And Lazarus, of course, with Barrier 1 in the Canadian Club Sprint. And then we have a look at the Derby heats with the Kiwis. All You Need Is Faith and the Devil's Own. Market for Lazarus's race, do we need to see this, Michael? Yeah, $1.20. Well, for multi-punters around the nation, they'll see that as pretty appetising.
I think so, because even if Tiger Tara crosses him at the start, Tiger Tara tends to roll along at a very good clip, Greg, and Lazarus is sitting on his back, and you would suggest with 350 metres up his sleeve down the straight, he'll run straight past him. Here's Laz winning the Hunter Cup after breaking Tiger Tara. If he leads, well, we know how that story ends. If Tiger Tara leads, we probably know how that story ends, Greg. I'm stunned he's not $1.05, to be honest.
Well, to be honest, Michael, I thought he was, or he would be. I hadn't actually had a look at the odds, but $1.22 or $1.20 would seem pretty positive. I spoke to Kim Prentice about Soho Tribeca and just how far he's come. He believes he'll get even better. So this clash for next week's Miracle Mile, particularly if he draws to the inside of Lazarus, will be quite intriguing. But Laz was just too strong, and we heard from Greg Sugars, he thought every time he was going to edge on past Lazarus, he just found another half length or neck anyway, and that's what makes him so incredibly hard to get past. And maybe getting in front of him, as you've highlighted on this show many times, is the best way to try and beat him, but I don't think that'll be happening on Saturday night.
No, look, I don't. I think that the other heat, the Soho Tribeca heat's by far the more interesting one, as you can see with their annoying Mark Purdon after the race. I think Soho Tribeca will probably lead there, but what Heaven Rockstars is interesting. Natalie's not driving him. Now, she hasn't had the appeal yet for her trying to get the suspension reduced. So Mark's on Heaven Rocks anyway, so that's a question of who's going to drive at the Miracle Mile. I think all these good horses will get in the Miracle Mile, Greg, but what do you do with him this week? He's on the Unruly, so do you just launch? Because if Soho Tribeca's in front, you probably can't lead, and how hard a run do you want to have with him? So that'd be interesting what Mark does with him. And in between them is Lenny the Shark, who, of course, this time last year, clearly and fairly outpointed Lazarus in the Miracle Mile. So it's a hell of a race, Greg. The Derby heats are really interesting. We have 2 horses in the Derby heats from the All-Stars, and both have drawn the ace, which sounds good, and they maybe probably should win. I think all you need is faith. The vets from New South Wales went out and asked about a blood report for the horse because they were worried it had a recent virus. It was reported to them it had a virus, but it is getting over that. Now, he's in quite a weak heat. This is all right, but not hot. So I think he'll get away even if he still is a few percent below his best. So Barrier 1, he went to Menangle last week, raced on a Tuesday, looked underdone, 1 should be improved. Mark flies home as we speak, he's in a plane, and he will drive the horse in final fast work tomorrow morning. So that'll give them at least some indication of where they stand. The other heat's different, Gregory. The Devil's Own is up against Colt 45, who's a pretty good horse. And I think that's Colt 31, my apologies. If the Devil's Own leads and Colt 31 has to sit parked outside him, I think the Devil's Own will beat him. But Greg, you know the Aussies, they love to run the gate, and Colt 31 comes into barrier 3 here. I reckon there's every chance he might beat the Devil's Own for speed. And then the question is how slow or fast they go and how quickly they get up the straight. So I think the All-Stars will win the first of the Derby heats. I think this heat is a flip of the coin between those two for what it's worth, Gregory. So I wouldn't be jumping on the Devil's Own punters thinking it's an All-Stars lead and win job because there's no guaranteed either of those things will happen. I'll try and get an indication, Greg, when you ring me Saturday night. I'll speak to Mark about how all they worked tomorrow morning. So it'll be Thursday morning by the time we talk, and we can try and give you a confidence levels indication of where they are going into those Derby heats.
No, that'll be excellent, Michael. Just back to that market featuring Soho Tribeca and Heaven Rocks. He's a $3 second favourite. Again, I think the TAB are giving you some really good value with Soho Tribeca. He's got great gate speed. Can't see any reason why he won't lead in this. And if he does, that I think is wonderful value, $2.20, Michael. Yeah,
I love it.
I'd be very keen on that.
I thought it'd be $1.80, Greg, because I don't think Lenny the Shark needs to do anything heroic, as we see big Heaven Rocks there, many as they call them. I think they'll probably launch and look to go to the chair on them. They won't sit back to last, but they won't need to do anything silly because they only have to finish in the top 3 or 4 and they'll be getting a Miracle Mile start. Soho Tribeca up against the Marker Pegs. The last 2 times he's been against the Marker Pegs in a race, Gregory. He's won the WA Cup, and the last time he was in a serious race before that against the Marker Pegs, he beat Lazarus in a heat of the Inter-Dominion. If he leads, I think he'll win. The 220 is very fair, Greg. If you take the 220 him, 120 Lazarus, you're getting yourself a pretty healthy double about leaders and preludes who almost always win the preludes to the Miracle Mile at Menangle.
That'll be great. Saturday night, of course, with Brecon Farms and PGG Wrights, and looking forward to bringing you all the info from here, and Michael will be over there. Stick with us. When we return, we'll find our best bets of the week. Don't know if that's a great thing, but we'll be back to tell you anyway. Stay with us here on Your Box Seat. Trainers Premiership-wise, Robert Dunn has a lead of 4 over the All-Stars team, and Blair Orange, well, things went pretty well for him on Tuesday, of course, at the Manawa 2. What's he on now? 121 plays 97, so a lead of 24. Announcement out from Harness Racing New Zealand. The board met recently and they've come up with this. to entice or encourage, I suppose, the winner of this year's premiership, and they will be the New Zealand representative at the World Driving Championship to be held in Sweden in May next year. Now, I think that's a terrific thing to do because it'll just add spice to what is already going to be an intriguing next 6 months. I think we need to factor that into it though, Michael, that it's a long way between now and the end of the season. We've talked about the fact that a suspension or injury could have a part to play, but in saying that, I think that's a pretty good incentive. Not only does the driver go to the series, of course, they get to take their partner. If it was Blair Orange, it would be his wife Lisa, and I'm sure a trip to Sweden would be, yeah, thanks very much for that, it'd be nice.
Well, more wins yesterday, a Manawa for Blair, and that's going to be maybe, I think, the advantage that he has to maintain that lead, or at least keep it above 10. Greg heading 40 as Manawa again tomorrow, of course. Talking about drivers, the Teal Pants campaign has been fantastic, and we see a lot of the girls driving in the Teal Pants already, but some wins already coming, the money accruing for ovarian cancer awareness. Next week, Cambridge race next Thursday, so tomorrow week, and they're going to have the three ambassadors. Nikki Chilcott, of course, is a local, and Cherie Tomlinson and Sam Otley are all going to be there, Greg, so if you've got a horse for one of them to drive, and I think it's wonderful, Greg. I heard an interesting story this week. Some of the amateur drivers rang up and said, what about us? The female amateur drivers want to be in on this too. Everybody's buying into it, Greg, and it can only be good, and it shows harness racing integrating with the general community. Another one who's integrating with the general community this week, Gregory, the Sheffield Rugby Club has a race-off between David Butcher and Craig Thornley in a mountain bike cross-country race to raise some money for the kids. I've got a couple of school young kids rugby teams there. Great to see again those harness racing guys and girls, Greg, getting involved with their communities, and that is the sort of stuff, to go back to the start of the show, which might get another person from outside the racing industry into the ownership game, Greg. So I think
certainly the Team Teal theme, and I spoke to Duncan McPherson about it at the sales. It's really building momentum, so congratulations to HRNZ and Jess Smith who are putting all that stuff together, because yeah, it's certainly adding a lot of interest, and people are backing the Teal Pants just purely on that and following in their races. I think it's a wonderful cause, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's being able to be accumulated over the next month or so. What about best bets, Michael?
Yes. I'm not sure they should be called best bets, Gregory. They should be called scratchings, because both of ours got beaten last week. I've actually promised the people from Stonewall Stud I won't pick theirs anymore. The last 2 weeks I picked one of Steve Telfer's, and they both got beaten. So, Greg, before we get to those, most importantly, the announcement came out on Friday from Harness Racing Victoria that they are bringing the trotters into Dominion back. Now, Auckland have said they want to do the same thing, but Auckland don't own the series at Alexandra Park next year. Harness Racing New Zealand are the overlords, for want of a better word of that. Spoke to Edward Rennell. They are looking at, and I think they're keen to do it, Greg, but they also want to be respectful of their partners at Harness Racing Australia. Menangle will have it the next year, so they're going to go through it and try and find out where that money comes from. If it's $200,000 to hold it, Greg, Harness Racing New Zealand have to ask themselves the question, is that 200 races we hold for $1,000 less? And is that good distribution? Greg, in my opinion, not theirs, we should have the trotters into Dominion. You know how I feel about it, my friend. I think it will come back, but it is by no means confirmed. I think it's a good thing to go shoulder tap the Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister for Racing, and say, hey, you wanted some good things to come back into racing. Well, this is an ideal one. You're old, you like old stuff. Let's get the Inter Dominions back.
Yep. Hard to argue with that, Michael. Okay, our scratchings for this week. I hope that's not the case, because AG's White Sox will be very hard to beat, and that's why I've gone for him in race 6, number 2. And Michael, you're going to kiss me or not? Not too many letters left out of her name, but she should be hard to beat in the first.
It's a Valentine's Day one, Gregory. Valentine's, you see? See? Wore the red rose. Spoke to John Dunn, said the horse was unfit last week compared to where it will be this week. He's going to be a lot fitter. 1,700 metres is her go. So I was going to go AG's White Sox, Greg, but I'm sure the hopes are happy I did not. Hopefully we're back on the board this week, my friend.
Yeah, I'm hoping as well. Looking forward to catching up with you on Saturday. Of course, Menangle, that should be fantastic, but the precursor to that is Addington Raceway's premiere night on Friday night. There'll be some betting opportunities there. The fields outside of the ones we've looked at, Michael, are very, very deep. In fact, it's right up there with a New Zealand Cup Day field in terms of the quality, I think, the lower grade races that we have there on Friday night.
Should be super, Greg. Looking forward to sitting on the couch, watching it all go down. Congratulations to those who bought a horse. Congratulations if you sold a horse for the money you wanted. If you didn't get it, the door's not closed, Gregory. I think there are opportunities here for vendors, for young trainers, for old trainers. There's opportunities now, and it's just a matter of how much you want to maybe turn that horse into something else, Greg. So the sales just doesn't mean that the selling or the progress stops, Greg. Looking forward to seeing how all of these lots, the big ones and the cheap ones, come up in the next 6 months to a couple of years.
Appreciate your time tonight, Michael. Catch you on Saturday night. And in terms of the yearling sales, plenty of people over the years, well, they try and find someone to blame, but we're only a very small industry, and I have to take my hat off to PGG Wrightson and their committee who had the foresight to change things around, particularly here at this sale, and I think they've been rewarded with what's unfolded over the last couple of days. Yes, there'll be some people disappointed, but overall I think it was a pretty positive step. That's been your box seat, brought to you by Sweet Lou, standing at Woodlands. We'll catch you in 7 days' time.